One, two, three, four. The Brutally Delicious Podcast. The Brutally Delicious Podcast. The Brutally Delicious Podcast. The Brutally Delicious Podcast.
What's up, everybody? This is Dark Macek with Brutally Delicious, coming at you with a review of Dokken's brand new album, When Heaven Comes Down. So, does Dokken even need an introduction? Total seminal hair metal act that is still touring to this day. Give us the likes of George Lynch, one of the best metal virtuosos of the 80s. I think their biggest song was Alone Again, a power ballad. If you want to get into them from a metal perspective, I definitely recommend When Lightning Strikes Again. So anyway, they've obviously produced a new album, and going into every one of these, I try to remember it's not 1984 anymore. I wasn't alive in 1984, but I still remind myself of that. They named it When Heaven Comes Down after one of their album tracks. There's a song on Tooth and Nail called When Heaven Comes Down. Listen to it. It's a good track. The band was named after lead singer Don Dokken. Much attention has gone to his live vocals over the last few years, and I'm happy to say that his vocal performance on this album did not disappoint. He does not attempt to do air raid sirens or super high notes, whatever you'd like to call them, and that's for the best because who at his age still can? He sings within his limits, and the songs are so much better for it. Last thing before we get into the tracks. Production-wise, I thought this album sounded really good. The guitars were nice and crisp and crunchy and just subdued enough to make it not a total masturbatory fest. I'm reminded a little bit of Infestation by Rat, which was their comeback album in 2010. Ow, we're 13 years after the age of hair metal comeback albums. All right, let's get into some songs. The opening track, The Fugitive. I think this was the single. This sounded like a good classic metal track, and immediately I'm thinking, Don's voice is doing pretty well here. The guitars sound great, drums are big and boomy. I wish they were a little more upbeat, and we'll talk more about that in a bit. But my main thought was it's nice to hear music from them again where the vocals are natural, not forced, and I don't think auto-tuned. Gypsy. This is more of a classic track. Now we get that up-tempo beat with the drums. This song felt like the 80s. Again, I never lived through that era, but it reminds me of all the movies celebrating that zeitgeist that I wasn't there for. I've spent very little time in California in my life, but when I listen to Van Halen and the Beach Boys, I get some feel of what I think it's like, or at least what people want to project that it's like. Gypsy is that, but for the Sunset Strip in the 80s. After hearing the guitar solo on this track, I thought, gee, George Lynch is sounding great. Then I went and looked it up, and this is not George Lynch, this is current Dokken guitar player John Levin. He's doing a great job at fitting the band's sound. I'm sorry, it's probably insulting to be told you sound like George Lynch in this context. In every other context, it's a huge compliment. But the solo was itself great, and I think he did a good job of serving the song. If I just hurt your feelings, I'm very sorry. Start a DM thread with Tommy Thayer and commiserate with him. I'm sure he gets it a lot. Moving on. Silver Lining Music. Another really good solo here. Really, John, you're killing it. The song clearly evokes In My Dreams, one of their bigger hits from the 80s. It's pretty on the nose, but I guess it'd be better than if he went and did a polka album, right? About this point, I'm asking myself, what is with all the slow tempos on the album? I understand that, again, he's not going to sing like he's 21 anymore, but there's no reason why the drummer can't be playing something faster than 130 BPM. Most Dokken songs that people still talk about are the more upbeat ones. Yes, everyone knows Alone Again and In My Dreams, but the ones we talk about are like Tooth and Nail and Don't Close Your Eyes. And it's not like their older albums were chock full of double bass burners, but they had a good mix. The Song I Remember. It's a highlight, but again, it's almost exactly the guitar arpeggio from Alone Again. I previously brought up Infestation by Rat. That was their comeback album. That one, by comparison, did have a song that was very on the nose. The second track, Best of Me, is a very clear nod to Dance the Night Away by Van Halen. I guess I'm curious, is it better to rip off another band or yourself? There's a John Fogerty joke here somewhere. Last but not least, Lost in You. This is the track I was waiting for. Really good song, well written, good at evoking a mood. It's got a good chord progression and a depressed feel in the style of hair metal. And by that I mean it's not doomy, it's not Black Sabbath, but it's a cool plotting riff with lyrics that amount to dating you was a mistake. Musically, it's very different, but I'm kind of reminded of like Jamie's Crying by Van Halen, where the music makes you feel one way and it's energetic, and the lyric is, she's crying. So, fun album, definitely exceeded my expectations, and it's cool to hear the band still producing new music. As I said previously, you got to go in there knowing that it's not 1984 anymore. You're not going to get Mr. Scary Part 2, but you are going to get respectable output from a band that has been rocking for 40 years. I'm actually hoping they tour with Winger, who also had a really good recent album. Make it happen, dudes. Rock on.